And we are back with the big finale. It's finally finished, and it seemed like something pretty big is coming. But today, we're gonna get into My Adventures with Superman, Season 3, Episode 10, the big finale. And I'm here with the legendary one and only.
Cameron Thomas funny clips.
It's been a journey, man. This has been incredible. And I want to hear what you're thinking on this very last episode. And even then, all together as a whole, this whole season, just add everything together at the end.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I've been thinking about it all last night. I was thinking about it all this morning. I was thinking about it all day. This is just one of those episodes that it stays in your mind and it just grabs your attention. And they, in my opinion, I'm just gonna flat out say it, I think this finale was more hype than what they did with season two, because I will say season two did kind of have finale did have some flaws where you have a lot of people just standing around and talking, as where this one they're constantly having action and stuff, and I felt like it was like more compelling where you actually have more drama and it's more dramatic in this, which I was very surprised that they went more dramatic with this and also more action packed with this one. And they did a really good job with like uh, how the team works together. Uh, Superman getting his powers, everything just fit perfectly. I actually was worried that they had too much for this finale, and especially that Bizarro tease at the end of last episode. I was like, are we putting too much for the finale and making it where it will be overbloated and it will probably be like one of those rush finales? And luckily, they somehow asserted our expectations yet again. I don't know what is up with this crew. I don't know what's up with these writers. They just know how to make us think and actually know that, hey, we're going to do this and you're not going to expect it. Like, they actually find good ways of doing it. And I will say, Toonami's really good at hiding a lot of things as well to make sure you're not spoiled for next episode. That's another thing that they're really good at. And just overall, this season has not been predictable at all. And I have been noticing that there are some people that are very that are like not really disappointed, but they feel a little off about this finale. Like, I did see some people say that they didn't really like how Bizarro was a good guy at this end because that ain't how he is in the comics, which I think there should be a rule in animation where
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to follow the comics to make a good story. You can make whatever continuity you want. Like, I feel like people should be able to be creative when they make their own version of this. And I do like how Superman was able to just give him a hug, and that's all he needed to calm down. Like, that is such a Superman thing. I was like, yeah, this actually reminds me a lot of what Goku did in the Broly movie when he was like fighting him and then he stopped because he noticed he's not bad. He's not fighting for evil. He's fighting because he has to. And actually do think this really just shows that they were really trying to make Superman Goku in this show, which rightfully so, they're really similar to each other. So I did really like how we were getting a lot of uh, instances where Superman was in the right the whole time, and Brainiac finally sees that. Like, he finally sees that he was all wrong. And I was even surprised that he even agreed with Superman, and he's now somewhat of a hero. Like, it's unknown what happens to him, which I kind of wish we got some relevance of that. Maybe he now keeps an eye on the Fortress of Solitude or something. Like, I could see that happening, to be honest with you. But I actually was looking at this and I was like, okay, so Brainiac says that he literally agrees with Superman and he's not going to be evil anymore. Pretty much is what he was saying. I don't know. I don't remember his exact words, but he does say, uh, violence is not the answer, is what he was pretty much saying. And I was like, that is new for Superman. Like, I don't even know if there's been any media of any type where Brainiac goes from being evil to actually agreeing with Superman because he is a conqueror. That is his whole villain persona. And yet, they did a really good job making us see that there is a way where you can make Brainiac a good guy. But yeah. And then with Brainiac, I don't know how Brainiac knows so much about the Kryptonians. That is one thing I've always been confused about because we always see him saying, "Oh, the Kryptonian race does da 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 da." He always has some sort of knowledge in season two about it, and I don't remember we ever got an explanation for that, and we got even more stuff that he knows about the Kryptonians than Superman does. I feel like what we should have did was where Brainiac says, "Oh, I actually found where all your memories are, Kal-El. You should go there and see if you can find one where your dad had a memory where he told you how to get your powers back." And then he goes to where all of his memories are. He looks at all of them, and then he finally sees, oh, I need to go to this room where the sun is, which I thought it was pretty weird how we don't see how he gets his powers back. We just see a sun, it fades to black, and that's it. It's so weird how they did the Superman side of things, but hey, if you were just, oh, if you put all that behind and show how they made Eradicator in this, I was already seeing so many people during watching that preview on that Adult Swim posted, and I was getting chills when I first saw that and how he was beating up Laura and Kara and Jonathan. And when it showed that, I saw so many people say, "Man, this has to be the scariest version of Eradicator I've ever seen." And I was like, "Yeah, I have never heard of this villain, and I'm already falling in love with him because of how awesome of a cool villain he is." Where he's actually really is scary. I can actually see the Dragon Ball exploration where those Dragon Ball villains used to be very scary, and they did a really good job with Eradicator being someone that you get really scared of, and that fear of, will our heroes make it? That's another thing that we really needed in this story, and that's kind of been the whole theme of this uh is everyone going to survive in this? And I do really like that. And when we see Eradicator overtake, like, Kara, she's getting beat up, Jonathan and Laura, and he's like, I, we can't stop him. There's no way. And then Kara's literally like, we won't know if we don't try. And I was like, yeah, if you know, Kara's definitely 100% Kryptonian because that is such a Kryptonian thing to say. And it kind of makes it where it shows that Kara is different from Clark because I do can see where Clark would be wanting everyone to stay back, as where Kara is wanting everyone to fight together. I can see that actually happening. But this actually was like probably such a cool way because we see Eradicator like multiply himself like Cyberman, which I thought was pretty cool touch of it coming out of the ground like Cyberman, where all he had to do was just take uh his spirit from the ground and rise it up, and Cyberman came up, which was just a bunch of Eradicators. And uh, I I was like, oh, I see what you're doing. And then when I saw like you know Amanda Waller, she has been barely in the season, and I was very confused of why she was running away. I was like, I know you're human, but usually Amanda Waller is known to be like wanting to show that we don't need these supers. And I felt like wouldn't she have like her top super weapon shooting at this thing instead of like using like average military weapons? I was like, I feel like she would have some sort of secret weapon before she went to like this big fight and everything. But I guess we needed a reason where we didn't need Amanda Waller in the show. So,
To be fair, Lex
and
Luthor was a secret weapon. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah, I will say Lex Luthor was a really good secret weapon. He was honestly he took Jimmy's idea too hard. Like he was actually he after that talk with Jimmy, he was a change of heart and everything. And I actually consider him a good guy now because the way he acts now is more of a hero than a villain. Like he actually wasn't he was actually willing to destroy Eradicator. He was willing to sacrifice his life. That to me, that's a definition of a hero than anything else. And he's it does seem like he has a chain of heart because he wants to protect this to protect Earth because he's literally trying to sacrifice his life for it. And I do think that's a pretty good idea for Let's because I feel like we've seen enough in Superman Mia where Let's is irredeemable. And I do like how this one, where Let's is redeemable. He has some good in him. Pretty much show because in Superman, we always see Superman saying there is good in everyone. And I feel like we need to see more of Superman's villains eventually turn good because I feel like that is the most Superman where is different from every other superhero. He actually knows how to fix his villains from being bad to turning good. And this was like a really good glow up for Lex. And not only that, he when he tried, I actually thought he was gonna be the hero of the story until like Superman showed up and there was gonna be some other big bad like Doomsday or something. But we never got Doomsday. I was very surprised by that. It was just Eradicator. So maybe Doomsday was supposed to be a thing that was supposed to happen in like concept art and stuff, and that's how that of it stayed in the actual episode. And they were like, okay, we're just going to use that as like a tease if we ever do a season 4. But I do think putting Doomsday in this would have been like a way where it would be over bloated because I could see someone being like, didn't we have like too many villains in this season? Like we have a Cyborg Superman, we have Eradicator, and now we have Doomsday. I can see that being very confusing for people. But here's the next part where it gets kind of insane. I actually thought seeing uh, Lex kind of get mind controlled and then eventually uh, Superman shows up to save them all. I was like, man, they didn't go with the black suit. I was very surprised they didn't go with the comic version of the story because usually make they like to put some comic aspects into it. But instead of using the black suit, they gave him this new Kryptonian armor, which I think looks really good on him. And I could see him using that if we do get a season 2 because season 4 because uh he might need to use that just for like extra protection because you never know, there might be a villain out there that has armor, but I really do think the armor should be some way, somehow, a way where he is immune to kryptonite. I think that would be a pretty cool idea, but we never see anything like that. So it was kind of weird. But I do think if they gave that unique power where he could be immune to kryptonite, it would have been pretty cool. But anyway, I do see how at first I was like, okay, is this the alternate version of Superman? Because I was very much expecting it to be the black suit, but no, it was actually the actual Superman, and that was actually his suit because I was expecting something to happen, which we still don't know what happened to that Superman in Jonathan's universe, which to me is so very weird because that's just a plot hole that will never be solved. But as for everything else, the it really just shows that maybe that suit was giving them like more power to sunlight or something, kind of like what the black suit does. But I don't know. I didn't really see it. I just more saw it. He just got his powers back. But hey, I thought this was a really good way to make Superman actually destroy the Eradicator. He he pretty much one shots him, and he literally asks him if he wanted to choose being good, and he literally says, "No, I'd rather die." And I was like, okay, okay. They actually let Superman show that he is willing to give his villains a second chance, which I thought was just the perfect way just to end this battle. And also, Jimmy and uh, Lex, they worked so well this season. Of where I know we barely got any of where they're together, but they are a good duo. I'm just gonna say, like, with Jimmy's way of convincing Lex to how to do right, and then Lex's genius. I think they're a good dynamic duo, and honestly, I wouldn't mind a Jimmy Olsen show where it's him and Lex on adventures. That I think that could be pretty cool. But I'll get into why that probably not going to happen.
My
But
Flame Bird.
that would be awesome. But uh, it would be pretty cool to see more of this series. But as we get to the kids, they actually end up saying goodbye to their parents, which I was like, oh, well, so they say goodbye. And I was like, and that part hit hard. I was like, man, when he says that, will everything be okay? I just knew he was going through what Lois had been going through this entire thing. And to show that this whole Lois arc is done, they show that she is doing the right thing and saying, "Oh, we will make sure your future becomes a good reality." And I was like, "That is really good." I was like, I was thinking that they did a really good job with Lois's art this season. I know I've been a little critical with that one because I was always like, I thought we were done and we're back. I thought we were done and we're back. That was probably the messiest part about it. But the whole journey of her finally come to terms and actually being there for her kids when they're going through the same thing was actually something I actually really do like because I feel like that kind of shows a full circle moment where we don't have to worry about Lois ever worrying about the future ever again and the retconning this whole art because it can happen, but they actually fixed it. But as we get to the next scene, which I will say I was not expecting them to have such a long wait because it was like 3 minutes left in like the episode or what something, and they went to commercial break before those last 3 minutes. It's because it really felt like they were trying to not cut out much of the battle or they just didn't want the hype to die down because I can see commercial breaks dying down hype because when you have a commercial break and it it can destroy the flow of a show when because you're like, oh, that's a cool product or something like that because I can see that happen. But when we get back, it seems like there's some kind of time skip. It feels like a time skip, but it doesn't say it's a time skip. I'm mostly thinking it's probably like a few days after the whole Eradicator thing. But we see Bizarro is full on. Oh, I almost forgot. Bizarro's full on is now Superman's cousin, which he literally calls him cousin. And I was like, okay, that is pretty cool. So we're from now on no longer going to see Bizarro as a bad guy. He's actually going to be what he was designed to be in the first place and what his father wanted him to be. And that was to be a good person for this world. And I think that's a really good idea because we see that so much with Bizarro, but he ends up being a villain and doing the wrong because he has all this power he can't control. But they did such a good way of just making Bizarro a really fun and awesome character. And then him, and then you have Superman literally saying that he is his cousin. I was like, that is probably the thing that made Bizarro the most happy in the entire fight. I think he has to feel like $1 million because at this point, Superman has now considered him family, his idol. And although I am still very much wondering where is his freaking dog? We see it in the first episode and then it goes away forever. That was the weirdest thing. I was like, and it's not like an average dog, you know, it's an actual like alien like dog that is very creepy and everything. I could see someone just walking in Metropolis and being like, "Hey, bro, what is that? Is that a xenomorph or something?" And then they call Superman, and Superman's like, "Oh, don't, Bizarro, I found your dog." I think that would be just so weird, but I could see that happening some way. I do wonder if that was actually supposed to be something that was cut out, but since the first episode was completed and got they got rid of the whole dog thing, they just left it in there because they didn't want to reanimate Bizarro scenes. I could actually see that happening, where they were considering it, and for all I know, they probably were trying to be like, "Oh, Bizarro has a dog, Superman has a dog. See, there's your connection." And then we have uh, when Bizarro probably goes all berserk. They were probably thinking about that as well. And then eventually he's like, "Oh, wait, you." There was like Crypto versus his dog, and I could see that happening too. But it is very weird how that dog shows up in episode one and we never see it again. I've been wondering where that went and why it didn't work out that way. But hey, whatever. At least we got a good season out of it. But as we see Bizarro giving Jimmy and Kara ice cream, I got so mad about this. This is probably the thing I'm the most conflicted about. And I'm seeing so many people saying Jimmy never deserved Kara because that's why he deserves not to be with her. And I'm like, dude, don't you remember any of their chemistry in season two? I was like, because they were like the best parts of season two for me because of their connection and everything, how they were constantly blushing and then they would be like, no, I'm not in love with her. Him. He's a human. I'm not in love with her. She's obviously a villain. And then they turn out to, they confess their love in season two. I feel like I would have really loved a happy ending for Jimmy, and you can see the upsetting face he has about not being her mate, and now that this has happened, he is now friend zoned. And I was like, ah, man, you're going to end Jimmy like that. And if we don't get a season four, he is now going to be friend zoned for life. Like, he cannot catch a break this season where he cannot find a good person to be with. I find that the weirdest part. And we also see that he is now a person that is working at Worms. He is no longer a someone that is speed dating. He is someone that is working for Worms. He is a manager there, which I thought that was interesting. I was like, dude, weren't you working at the Daily Planet? Uh, it's such a confusing thing because it's almost like the Daily Planet doesn't exist in this season because we don't even see it at all or a mention at all. It's so weird. And I mostly think that is probably the weirdest part is that that's kind of what makes it feel non-canon in a way. But at the same time, it's a season three. It is canon. But after all that, I was like, okay, that is probably the only thing I'm not happy about. But even then, we still got some good moments with Jimmy and Cara, and at least they're friends and they're not like enemies at this point, and they resent each other. I would absolutely hate it if they did that, but seeing them actually be full on friends, I think is a good substitute in a way because I don't think I could handle it being where they were not friends at all. But I know Jimmy goes pretty much has different girlfriends within continuities. Like I know in the James Gunn Superman movie, he was pretty much lets his girlfriend's girlfriend, and there was that. But you know, it's always a changing theme for Jimmy Olsen. He doesn't have a defined trait in the Superman comics compared to like some of the other characters. But I do think they could have worked on that Jimmy stuff better, and definitely the Kara stuff. I do think Kara was better than Jimmy in this season, but I do think they could have worked on their chemistry a whole lot better because it did seem like they did want them to go back together from what it looked like from certain episodes, especially that episode everyone calls filler, even though it doesn't seem like filler. But I do think most people are just happy that they're not together. And I mostly think they were like, you know, do we even like Jimmy? Because I can see a lot of people really just hating Jimmy this season. And they were like, yeah, let's friend zone them that so we're on the safe side. And I don't know how to be feeling about that. But as we get to seeing the farm, they are full on. They have a dog named Crypto, but it's unknown if he has superpowers. I was like, wait, so how did Crypto get there? I was like, it's been like 2 to 3 days, a week at most, and Crypto's there for some reason. And Lois says I've noticed this from a minute when I heard it. it's a very small line that she says, but she says that she rescued him as a Daily Planet agent. I was like,
Comic
where
crossover
did
coming. They're gonna have a comic that crosses over to tell that story. Bet on it.
yeah, I would definitely want to see that. But I'm like, so this is like the only way we're getting like Daily Planet type stuff, and we don't even know if Jimmy is a part of Daily Planet at this point. And I was like, this is weird. I was like, so we have this dog that is probably Teston, but we don't know if he has the Superman like powers or not because all we see is that he pretty much acts like an average dog, which I think was the weirdest decision. Or maybe I think this would it would have been cool if she found Bizarro's dog, but again, I've already said enough on that. But I thought it was so weird how we get that, and I was like, they better make a comic or something that fits this plot, a lot of these plot holes, because I'm gonna need a comic definitely for that Jimmy stuff because I'm gonna need his because it almost feels like his arc isn't finished. Is what it really feels like because that's mostly why I'm mad about that is because it doesn't feel like it's finished. And I do think a comic could fit some things like what the comic did for season 2. I feel like it kind of did it where they didn't have to make it like an exact sequel. It was sort of a small time skip between the two. And not only that, they can also give somewhat a finale if we they probably are saving for a comic. That way, if these loose ends don't get fixed up in the season 4, they can just fix it all up on the comic and it's all finished. They don't have to worry about it ever again. And I do think that's a really good idea of how this series actually has that option where if it doesn't get another sequel, it has that option to get like that comic run where it can make whatever it wants and it can fix plot holes that the season has. And I do think it was really interesting how uh, they Clark has taken it slow, but we do finally see see them propose to each other. And I thought that was probably a perfect way to end this if we don't get a season 4 because it kind of makes Superman's story full circle. If he ever wants to retire, he can just go to uh, Kara and say, "Hey, I want you to be the Superman of this universe." He can go to Bizarro and say, "Hey, you're the new Superman now. I trust you, buddy." And wouldn't that just be awesome? I feel like seeing Clark finally get the happy life he wanted since episode 1, because if we all remember episode 1, it showed that he was an awkward guy. He never got into he never talked to a girl. He had to keep his powers secret. He was afraid people would actually run tests on him, think he was a freak. And then he found his calling. He found the people he considers his family. And I think that kind of shows that they were trying to make Superman's story a complete full circle moment because we get his calling, it kind of like how Kara does at the end of season 2. And I just think this was a really good way to end the show if we don't get a season 4. Clark's story is finished, and if they want to make a comic run, they can fix these plot holes or these things that we need some information on. And I do think that could be fun. And I do think if we ever do get a season 4, it will be very, very different. Like I actually do think it will mostly be, they'll probably try to make it more subtle and less like cinematic of what they did with season three. I think the next one would be more like season one, where it was a more laid back comfort show, because I feel like a lot of people prefer, because I know there are some fans of that style of the show where it's more of a comfort show than an action show, which, hey, I'm more in for the action, but I do like the comfort aspect of it. So I think it could be fun to see another season, but if we don't, that's fine. I'm pretty satisfied with this ending. But next we get teases about Let's, which I called it from the beginning because it was a small line that they tried to hide, it felt like, where it was like, hey, they probably aren't listening right now. Only like half the audience will get this. And then once we get it, they'll binge watch it and they'll be like, oh, I did not notice that. And I noticed that Let's tells Amanda Waller, she's like, I just got one question. Why did you do it? And she's like, why did you have a change of heart? Why did you want to save the world? You're always being pretty scummy and wanting things your way and having all the control. And he literally is like, if you saw what I saw, you would be absolutely traumatized. He was like, you would do anything to save this world. I was like, ooh, I wonder what alien it could be. And I was like, it could be the Martian Manhunter. It could be the
Dark
Green
side.
Lanterns. I I actually do see it. It could be Dark Side. I think that could be pretty cool if it was Dark Side, because if we do remember what Brainiac said in the last episode, he said that there are more conquerors out there like him, and that's just how the alien species rule. The the power take the weak, and the weak serve the power. And I was like, that could set up other things, and I do think a final season would work if it was Dark Side, and then you could have a good way where you could see Superman be like, I wonder if there's other heroes out there. And you could get some cameos for other supers. Like you could see a Batman, you could see a Wonder Woman, you could see a cyborg. I think it would be pretty cool if like we could get that kind of movie type thing where it is Dark Side. And I do think this show really deserves it. And it does really seem like he was seeing Dark Side. I was also thinking he could have saw the Yellow Lanterns, because we are known for the Yellow Lanterns. Their power is to make people fear them, or they take your deepest fear and make it a weakness. And I was like, maybe he saw the yellow glow and it hypnotized him. And then they showed him maybe other alien species out there or other horrors out there in the universe. And then he's like, oh man, I just saw something I really wish I didn't see. And we and that's mostly why I do think Lex is now full on superhero now. And not only that, it does seem like he is going to serve his time. He wants to be there and serve his time for the goodness of the world, because he does see that he is a danger to this world, but he also sees the other dangers in this world. So he's kind of in this limbo type thing where he wants to work and help those that are going to be conquered, because he knows that Earth isn't going to be safe forever, but he also knows that he's also a danger. So I do think it could be pretty cool. We could have a season four where Darkseid appears, or whatever, or another alien or some sort, and then we could see him get in his LexCorp suit. I think that could be pretty fun. Seeing him work with Superman and actually be a sidekick to a part of his family, maybe actually being accepted into like Superman's like family. I think it could be pretty fun in a full circle moment of Lex Uh, and what I took away from this, bald can change you. Going bald can actually change you and make you a good man. Evidently, it worked for Lex. I think it could help a lot of people in this world. But I do think it is a way to show that we're going to see some crazy stuff in the Green Lantern show because they did say that this season will have a couple of nods to that show in this season because they do want to make sure people check that out too because they don't want to just do Superman. They want to do other heroes as well. And that's also what a lot of people want. And they know that Green Lantern isn't as popular as it once was when Gen Z was were all kids where you saw Green Lantern on merchandise everywhere. Now see Green Lantern barely on nothing, and Green Lantern really has been disrespected in DC as of late, and it seems like it's now time more than ever as my favorite DC superhero group, the Lantern Corps, is finally going to get their actual deserved love that they deserve because I do think their adventures are very much more interesting in all of the DC lore. And I do think it could be pretty fun just to see more of my adventures. But we actually get to see more of like space and other alien species. Like I've always wanted like a Green Lantern show where like every episode he goes to a different planet. I always thought that would be a pretty cool show. Him going on adventures, detective missions, helping out all these alien species and everything. I just thought that could be like a pretty cool show. And it seems like we could be getting that. And I'm actually pretty hyped for what the future comes with it. And it does seem like this creator of the show is expecting Adult Swim or DC to be like, okay, kind of done with the My Adventure stuff. It's time to pull the plug. But I also do think he kind of created the show that so he could continue working on like DC shows and stuff. So I am kind of hoping we get some other shows like this where we eventually do see that Justice League movie or that Flash show or that Batman show or whatever. I do think we, yeah, and Teen Titans. I do think we need to see some more stuff. Slade in this was a very obvious nod to what if they did make their own version of Slade. I know everybody's gonna say, I like the better. Oh, the best version of Slade is in the Teen Titans cartoon. Say what you want, buddy, but that was actually a comic accurate Slade. That's what he's supposed to be. And sometimes we do need some change. And I do think it's very fun that we can see this actually be. Also, I've been noticing all throughout this season, Slade has been voiced by Jerry from Rick and Morty. I've thought that was the weirdest choice for Slade. I wouldn't expect that. The punching bag of Rick and Morty is now the most evil villains of all DC. I was like, well, that's interesting, but I will say he does a really good job as Slade, and his mask. We finally got his mask reveal, and it's something that Punisher will wear. It's a full on skull and everything. I thought I did it. I can see some people absolutely hating that, but I absolutely do think that Slade stuff was pretty cool, and how he was the punchback, but he finally gave uh Let's Mercy and stuff. It could be pretty cool to just see him uh maybe doing some stuff in Metropolis and actually helping and eventually becoming the Slade we all know and fighting all off the Teen Titans and stuff. But yeah, I think this finale was phenomenal and everything. Uh, I do think it was more hype than it, but the quality of it was a little iffy in some parts because there were some things I was like, I don't, I'm not really big on that one, or I'm not too sure about that one because you have your your obvious pits. You have Jimmy not getting with Kara, then you all, but at the end of the day, there are just some nitpicks, and when you see the production of the show and how it kind of was in development hell where the creator didn't know he was supposed to get a season three, and he kind of was thinking, "Oh, I guess season two's it." And then finally, DC and James Gunn was like, "Hey, this show is very popular. Let's give it a season three, and you can pick another hero to have another show." And he was grateful for that. And I do think that was kind of the problem is that he kind of rushed his writing aspects because he didn't get all that fun extra time to come up with more ideas and stuff. But I do think at the end of the day, he did a really good job with what he had to work with and the the work conditions that came with that. But at, at the end of the day, it's My Adventures of Superman. What it is that it's a really good show. It's always going to be peak, but it's always going to be uh, it's not going to be the perfect show. But I do think a lot of people should give it more of a chance than what a lot of people don't give it a chance.
I completely agree. I completely agree. It was awesome. Um, there was some flawness to it. I do think there was a peak with like one of the biggest plot lines coming down to a huge big battle, but it felt like they were trying to speed things up at the beginning very quickly, already going to a lab where Kryptonia, not Kryptonia, where Superman comes from, they're replicating exactly in a lab where he came from. And I felt like you were kind of speed running things already. I'm like, wait, we're going to be doing this the first episode, and we already get another version of Superman, and it was fine, after that. Once we got past that, this season felt like it got a lot better. There was that one episode where they were doing the little game show, but I think that's a nod towards something in the future that will be like, oh man, we really thought this episode was nothing. And people are going to be mad that they even made fun of that episode in the first place, because it is really relevant. It's not only the person that they were trying to summon, but it's also their own selves who they literally were going to either become or were, which is kind of like the reflection of looking in a mirror of each character. Because if you look at Lois Lane, she actually became Commander this season completely. You look at Lack of Superman, he was gonna die. He was most likely gonna die, and that could have been like a thing where things got switched. I think a lot of stuff did get switched this season. I don't think Laura was intentional at all. It was Power Girl, I believe, and another cousin of Clark's, I think, at first. And I think they were kind of against that because they're like, maybe we should hold it off. Maybe we should hold it off. But whenever I'm seeing this like broad cast of characters that we now have, I kind of see what they're going to be doing. They're going to be doing something kind of similar in the Green Lantern series where we may not always get Jessica Cruz as our main character for the episode. They're going to kind of like spin it off as, hey, maybe we're going to have Bizarro be the MC. He might go into rampage mode and someone else has to come and save him or something. It's just fun stuff like that that they can now do. Supergirl, I mean, if anyone gets a spinoff, I gotta say it's gotta be Supergirl here. She's such a great
Oh,
character.
absolutely.
My Adventures of Supergirl, it just has such a good ring, and I do think that they'll think about expanding off of that. I do think it would do pretty well. But yeah, I felt like coming into it, that first episode was probably one I'm like, yeah, you're rushing it to kind of meet something new. And then we come to the last episode, and I felt like they were speed running this huge battle that happened all at once. What you're saying, you're expecting them to take this into season four, which would have been awesome. It would have been awesome. It would have been stupid, but it would have been awesome. I was kind of somewhat like at first, but once I was watching Eradicator get serious, like I could get past his appearance because for some reason it looked like Draco Malfoy's dad from Harry Potter. I'm like, dude, it's some little skinny dude. I'm like, and then we started seeing the moves, and I'm like, okay, this guy is pretty tough. But they definitely they did work it out to where he's like, yeah, he's pretty cool, and the defeat was pretty sick. Brainiac being a friend now, that was something that I thought was interesting. I'm kind of skipping around, by the way, but what I'm kind of seeing is it's kind of like everyone that Superman has as a villain is sort of going to be like a Joker in this universe, if that makes sense. From
Hmm.
time, they're always going to be rivals of some sort, but they'll be working together sometimes. They'll work their differences out and team up, and I think that's a cool thing to have for an adventure series where we can sit there and say, hey, not everyone's a bad guy. Like, remember Livewire? She was like one of the baddest villains in that first season, and she's literally like a best friend now of these people. Like, it's kind of crazy, honestly. We've came a long way, and this season they did do a little too much. We got a lot of characters. Was Laura necessary? I don't know. I think they could have kept it as, who are those characters? And they just kind of like poofed away real quick. That would have been really great. And it's coming back to what you were talking about earlier. Whatever happened to that Jonathan in his universe? It makes it even worse now because here we have Jonathan and he's just fine. What happened to the other Jonathan? Did something
Hmm.
change? Maybe we'll get a future Green Lantern episode. And yeah. I mean, I'm gonna kind of skip all the way to the ending with the crypto thing. We don't really know if that's you know gonna be ever told, but it could happen in the Green Lantern series. Like, I'm expecting Jessica Cruz at some point to be going to that comic convention or whatever that convention was, and that being a part of the series itself. That would be really cool if it all like connects within this one season. That way, maybe there's more that we just don't know about. What if Doomsday did come and we just don't know about it? It really opens your mind up. So, I enjoyed the season. I thought it was strong in its own way, had a pretty cool ending. Was it season 2? No, it wasn't season 2 to me. If I had to rate it, I'm going to say it's an 8.8. I do think it's very good, but season 2 was just. It had umph to it. They're definitely going to be doing a fourth season now. I will say so. That's just too. There's too much unwritten at this rate, and you know it. Me and you both know. They got to do a season 4. This Green Lantern series, I think it's going to do excellent. Jessica Cruz, she's cool.
And let's be honest, they also had a huge plot hole where, uh, they teased this evil version of Lex for the future, and
Mm-hmm.
that went nowhere.
Yeah,
So, but for all we know, Lex could have changed that future with him turning good. So that's another thing that could have happened.
yeah, and I was pretty sure whenever Lex got his mind like messed with, like my TV was like skipping around. Did he turn into Zod? Is that what was going on throughout that? I'm trying to get like a.
No, what it was is that Eradicator was trying to use his mind, is what it was. He was trying to fully control, take full control because he was saying, uh, you might think that you're in control, but really I'm in control. And he was saying, we since they share the same mind, they kind of have the same power. And he was showing that he has more power over them. And he kind of used his mind to stop working, is what it was. That so he was unable to control them. But it wasn't until those eradicators got destroyed uh, that he got conscious again. So, but it was a really intense scene. Actually thought Lex was gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Lex is too cool. Whenever you're going
Yeah,
like the Jimmy series, it needs to be like My Adventures with Jimmy and Lex, and he goes Flamebird, and Lex wears the suit. It's just that would be a great series itself too.
yeah, and it's like what I said. Flamebird should be like a suit made at LexCorp. Like it writes itself. It's just right there. They just need to get it and just make the show. It's just all right there because they just work so well together.
Yeah, I think there's plans to submit their own stepping stone and continuity by making Jimmy this hero that probably in like the ongoing comics that's gonna just appear out of nowhere. Like, man's got help from Lex Luthor, hey, here's a suit. The world's ending. It could happen in Absolute. That'd actually be freaking hard if he has to like
Hmm.
save the worlds. Ah, man. I, there's too much stuff. Too many great things. Did you give it a rating? I
No,
don't
I did
remember.
not. I give this episode a 9.8. The Jimmy stuff did bring it down a bit, but not too bad. And overall, this season, with its flaws and everything, it's a 9.5 at most. I think it's really fun, but it's not as hype as season two, but it does have those hype moments that season two had. Like I would if I had to change some certain things, I would have let Cyborg Superman be the full on villain. He was just such a menacing villain and everything. I felt like he was more menacing than Radicator at some points, but that's just me, and I would have rather have Cyborg Superman as the main villain, especially since you made most of the marketing about Cyborg Superman in the first place. So, yeah,
I agree with that. And like, I just want to go back for a second. You look at the Superman armor. I think I kind of understood why they did that. I think they were gonna be doing the black armor, but they're like, no, we can't have two people wearing black because then you're gonna lose Superman being
yeah,
the good guy. And they're like, okay, we're gonna give him this. I think he's wore that before in like a movie or like a action figure before. It's kind of funny. Oh, but yeah, that's the only thing I had to add there.
yeah.
Um, you got anything else you'd like to tell
No,
people with this finale?
that's it.
That's it. Okay,
That's it. I'm just real excited about Green Lantern. Hopefully, it comes out next year or the next year. Uh, I just need it soon because I just can't say goodbye to this series or this universe because it's just too fun.
I don't think it's the end. I do think it's going to come out in 2026,
Absolutely.
right around the corner. Yeah, this.
The creator did say, I will say this. The creator did say that the ratings and the viewership for this season are higher than season one and season two. So, and he said there is a chance for a season four. It's just only if DC and James Gunn actually greenlit it and Adult Swim as well. So hopefully they actually are smart about it and is like, yeah, this deserves a fourth season. So that makes me real excited. And I was actually kind of worried with the wait it took for this that it would actually end up being less viewership, but no, it actually made people actually miss it and want to go back to it. And I'm actually really happy about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're gonna have some more wholesomeness coming into that next season whenever it does happen. Um, I guess my final word is Josie Campbell. She's the goat, one of the greatest cartoon writers, I will say. She does basically everything when it comes to this My Adventure series, and she's honestly been terrific on every single thing she's done. Hopefully, they'll use her for some other projects in the future as well. That's
Absolutely. I think Adult Swim and Cartoon Network needs to have her at least come up with more stuff. I know she is, if I'm not mistaken, she is writing that Starfire show, but it ain't connected to the Adventure series. But hey, that could be fun too.
I would love it so much. Like this is a great universe. I don't see any reason to dump it, but the numbers aren't always going to be strong just because some heroes aren't as popular as other heroes, and you can't just focus on one hero because people get bored very easily.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's all we got. Uh, Lost chances.
No, we can end it.
I gotta make sure. Big season finale, guys.
Yeah.
We loved it, man. We loved it. Um, we want to know we want to know what you guys' thoughts are on My Adventure Superman season 3, episode 10. Hope you guys stay safe, and until next time, peace out, guys.
Peace out, guys.